Welcome to Healthy and Wealthy Conversations, where we discuss everything that leads to health and wellness for your whole spirit, soul, mind, and body. Welcome to Healthy and Wealthy Conversations. I am your host, Casey Bell, and today's guest is Dr. Chonta T.A.Haynes. Let's get the show started. So tell me how you became interested in finances or how you got into that area of expertise.
Well, let's see. I've been teaching theology now for the last over 15 years. My original degree is in electrical engineering, both a bachelor's and a master's in electrical engineering. But when I started teaching finance, what I recognized was in many instances, people were not applying the theology or theory of what they learned. Similar in education. We go to school, we learn something, we get the information in class, but we don't actually apply it. So there's that disconnect. And so what I ended up doing as far as writing the different books were to actually help people put feet to their faith, is what I say. So they can actually walk it out. We know that, and I was going to say one from your book, you talk about we reap what we sow. You're absolutely right. But if you're not planting a seed, if you're not taking a step to do something, then you're going to fall flat on your face. When we look at our current economy and you look at the current pandemic, it was just a magnifier of the fact that we're not teaching financial education. We're not showing people how to adequately manage their money so that they will then have a better outcome. We end up depending on somebody else to do that. We end up depending on our family members to pick us up and, take that responsibility. Or we look to somebody else. We want to borrow the money, though we're not a good credit risk. Those type of things. And so my goal was to try to change the economic footprint for many in the community, but specifically to say, hey, this is what you do based on what you know. So I've got to teach you that information up front and then show you how to actually apply it so that you walk it out and then you're in a better position. And then the goal is for you to then have that ripple effect that not only have you been impacted, but then you impact your family, your communities, and then the world gets impacted overall.
Cool. That's one of the things I noticed recently is that in school, well, I guess school is supposed to prepare you for college and then college is supposed to prepare you for work. Mm-hmm. School algebra and geometry is required, but not everyone needs that at work. However, every business needs at least either or a bookkeeper or an accountant, but yet those are not required. And it's like the school system is failing in teaching us what we need because everyone needs an accountant on their, if you want a successful business, but they're not teaching, how to budget, how to, what to do with your money, but they are teaching algebra, which most people don't use. And
there are a lot of things. I'm a big math person. I told you engineering. I'm a big math person, and I noticed that there was, what do you say? There's this mental block against the math side of which finances is going to fall in. That they're not teaching it where it's fun, where you see the practical applications of it. And I would go back with some of the students that I had an opportunity to help. I would tutor them, and I said, well, look, you like shopping, right? Well, you need to know percentages. And they think, oh, I didn't realize that, and it was those type of things. When you look at volume, you look at volume discounts, you look at being able to read labels at the supermarket to say, how much am I spending per ounce and which one is better for me? And I can do that comparison shopping. Mm-hmm. Those things are all in your algebra, even up to your calculus level, but it's not applied in everyday life that you're using what you've learned. And so that still kind of goes back to the same thing. We're teaching on a higher level, an overview, but not helping people connect the dots, if you would.
Right. Well, I doubt it'll happen, but I think it would be, because one of the problems I believe school has is when they label people with ADHD because they can't sit still. And I'm like, but in real life, no one sits still. And so even as you were saying, one of the things I believe they should do is after you teach something, find a way to create like the classroom, what do you call it? Supermarket. And to teach them how to shop, and not just shopping. I hear a lot of people complain, oh, I went to the store and I gave them this and they couldn't figure out the change on their own. And I'm like, because they never had to. And so I said, so do that. Create an atmosphere where they actually have to be behind a fake counter and the calculator's not there, you know, whatever the case may be, you got to figure it out. And I believe if there was time in the classroom to sit down and teach and then to get up and use what you've just learned, we would keep it absorbed more, because that's everything we do before we go to school, from walking to getting dressed to brushing our teeth, is because we did it every day. And so we're able to
interest too. And one of the things when I connect with my students, I don't like labels. And I heard you say that. I don't like labels. It's not fair. You have to be able to connect with each individual student and say, based on this, based on how you see life and based on what you like in life. The ADHD saying their attention deficit disorder, there's not an attention deficit. You didn't find something that interested me for me to be able to focus on, you know? And so, and I know we're completely off talking about books right now, but it's good to know that that's where they're coming from, you know? And once you figure that out, then you can capture their attention. Well, let me say this. The name of my company is Heart to Heart Truth Ministries. I believe that true learning is not head to head, but it's heart to heart. Right. And that's similar to what we're talking about. It's not that I'm just giving you book information. I am getting down to the base of who you are so that we connect. Because as long as you know how much I care, then you're going to want to know what I know and you're going to listen to me. But outside of that, you know, it doesn't work. And I won't help you get to that next level. And my goal, my passion is to help you get to that next level in whatever I do. And so however I put it together for you, and there are different types of people. And as we talk about the books, I know when I gave it to you, I have 3 different books all under finance right now. And I've got another one that's coming out. They're done at different levels. I started off with Financial Wisdom for Financial Freedom. Now that one's a workbook. Let's see. I made sure I put it here. This is the workbook. It's for your do-it-yourself people. It's the, you know, the type that says, I can work through it on my own. Well, everybody can't do that. It does give you scriptural references that go along with it, but it gives you the practical application that was missing to say, this is how you do debt reduction. This is a website that you can go to for looking at your credit. These are the things that they're going to be considering. So this is what you need to do. Here are the alliances you need to have with your bank. These are some of the things that you need to take out or make sure you're paying attention to, because it's eating away at the funds that you do have. But then there's those who want more of the theology and theory behind it. And so we use not just paper in the classroom for biblical finance, and it goes through from Genesis to Revelation, but it also gives you a Bible study to say, let me think about this. Let me internalize so that I could walk it out. Now, in the Financial Wisdom for Financial Freedom, that workbook, it also has a Bible study, which most will not do, you know, because it's saying internalize what you just learned, so that when you take it to heart, you say, okay, I do this because I go through mindset as well. I do this because of that. I do this because my family history has been one of poverty. So I have a poverty mindset. I don't believe I'm going to make it, but that's not what the word says about me. So I need to change my mindset. I need to renew my mind. When I renew my mind, I start handling money differently. And then the recent one that I did was in July, and that's Divinely Connected, Steps to Fearless Financial Freedom. And it's a devotional planner, 52-week devotional planner. It's done in bite-sized pieces. So what I do is I mix the 2 of them together, but it's not the full do-it-yourself. You are going to do it yourself, but little chunks at a time over the year, as opposed to somebody who could sit down and just walk right through it.
Right.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's kind of how I packaged it together. And one of my bigger one of the things that I've been doing lately on a lot of the digital stages, especially with the Corona cooties, like I call them, like I said, it does magnify, but we each have a personality. And I look at biblical financial personalities, taking into account my engineering background with the systematic approach and the problem solving. marrying it also with the scripture of this is how you operate if you are, for instance, I have steam personality, you have a water personality, fire, and ice. So that's why the engineering comes in. But in the STEAM personality, is the type of person who likes to, the acronym stands for spend, thinking emotionally about memories. So they're constantly giving. Well, we're supposed to be givers. You know, you're not, everything is not about you. You reap what you sow. Okay, but if you don't have a budget in place, you're overspending and you don't know why you're overspending. So then it takes you to the biblical reference. One of them happens to be with the Good Samaritan. But he also went and took care of his business as well. He said, innkeeper, I'm going to give you this. I'll come back and finish. So I can do for others, but I have to make sure I take care of the things that I need to take care of first. Don't let my bills go lacking. Don't let me get a late payment because I'm helping you pay off your bill when you didn't do what you were supposed to do. All right, makes sense. So that's kind of how those things are put together. So I think, Casey, you probably have a better understanding of me now than most people of why I do what I do. But I do have a passion to assist in that area and many others. But finance is a big one that we're seeing right now.
Okay, so name, well, in your own experience, the top three, what's the word? I'll say ignorances that people have about finances that they don't realize is causing them to be poor, causing them to continue to be in debt, causing them to keep going around the same problems of having financial problems.
One of the big ones is the way they handle money. They think that everything that glitters is gold and they need to go get it quick, fast, and in a hurry. So there's that initial problem of deciding between what's a need and what's a luxury. We think everybody's supposed to have all of this. You know, that's one of the big problems, that need versus luxury. The second one I would say would be more on the side of debt management. Why did I get into debt? Not recognizing that the credit card companies, it's a billion-dollar industry. Mm-hmm. That's why you can constantly get in the mail new credit card applications, because they want you to not pay it off. There are also some sabotagers that are out there that keep you in debt because you don't recognize the game is set up against you. The world, the government, all businesses want to take your money. It's not what you make, it's what you keep that's important. And so you're constantly spending and buying and thinking that 90 days same as cash sounds great. But if you don't have it on day one, I tell you, don't buy it. You know, figure out how much you need to pay every single month until it's paid off in those 90 days, which is only 3 months. Because on day 89, if you can't pay it, all the interest from day one goes back on. And it's typically at about 33% interest.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of those that are out there of the systematic issues that are there that are going against you. And then thirdly, I would say on the credit side, we don't recognize the importance of having good credit and how you can get good credit. You know, the credit score simply says this is an indication of how well you will be able to pay back funds. So if you're in a good position that you typically pay all your bills on time, you don't have any late payments, you're not overutilizing what you do have access to, then you're going to have a lower score. Well, that lower score then is equivalent to you being able to buy more at less, you know, for a lesser cost, because your interest rate is low because of that credit score. And so we don't balance those things. We don't know the systems. We don't know how money works.
One of the things I would definitely encourage parents, because I remember, I think it was my first year in college. I was leaving a classroom and this guy comes up to me. He goes, "Oh, would you like to get a credit card? You don't need, you know, parents, yada, yada." And I already knew about credit cards because my parents talked to me about it. So I said no. And my first thought was, why are they on a college campus?
Yep.
Even though they're legal, mentally, technically they're not. And I thought that that was very just wrong, that's what goes on. And I understand because these are college students, try to make money. They get a percentage, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I thought it was wrong that colleges would even allow that on their campus, knowing most of them are already in debt because they're here on a loan. Why are you now allowing someone with a credit card to put someone further into debt? And so a book I wrote on college, I said, one of the things you need to do is run away from those credit card sharks and do not accept it, because it seems, you know, when they put all that good stuff that sounds right, by the time you get to the small print of all the entrants and all of the rules and regulations and all the things that's going to happen to you if you don't pay on time, that's the stuff they don't tell you. And by the time you find out, now you're in trouble and you don't know what to do. And I think it's real sad that colleges, and I know we live in a free country, et cetera, but I still think it's wrong that colleges allow that on campus.
Well, some people think that it's a rite of passage at the age of 18 that you can get a credit card. Okay, you can. If it's one that does not have an annual fee, excellent. It starts building your credit because you got credit history, as long as you're not using it or you are using it wisely. So if you charge something, you have the money already ahead of time and you pay it off at the end of the month, no problem. I don't have a problem with that. But most of the college students, even adults, don't do that. Right. So they don't know how to use credit appropriately. There's another one, and now we got big into the debit cards. I'm going to tell you honestly, I am a credit card person over a debit card. Why? Because you're not balancing your checkbook.
Yeah, most people don't.
You're not balancing and figuring out, oh, I've got this one that's coming out, and you end up in trouble because you're now going to be paying. Whereas with a credit card, with 0 annual percentage interest, fee, you can look at those charges beforehand and dispute whatever is there before it goes through, especially with all the fraud today. They got your debit card, it's out of your account immediately. You're fighting with the bank to try to get it back. Right. Whereas with the credit card, you haven't paid it yet. So those are some of the differences. And what I try to do is teach you how to make good financial decisions.
That's good. I like I never thought about the difference between, I always thought a debit card was better than a credit, but I never thought of that as far as when it gets stolen and all that, things like that. And I know for a fact, actually, credit cards, they'll contact you immediately. Because I know, well, it was pretty funny. Because,
it depends on the dollar amount, because you can set
yeah, actually, yeah. But I thought it was funny because two of the jobs I worked at, I'll say a year after the whole chip thing came out on the credit card, and it was supposed to be more safer, more this, more that, we kept getting customers saying, oh, I got to change my credit card. It's been hacked. And we're like, but the chips are supposed to be every customer. I got the new chip card and it still got hacked. And it was just like, how? It's supposed to be.
Well, we've got criminals today that are preying on others and what they have. And they are getting smarter and smarter. So even though the technology comes out, they're already ahead of the game in how to hack into that new technology. It's very disheartening, because to me, if you have that much creativity and ingenuity, just do it for right. Do it for good.
Exactly.
Start a company. But
I've always said,
try to take from somebody else. Right.
I always say, if you got so much time to go after the elderly, so much time to build all this, just either get a real job or start a business, because it's the same time, you're spending the same money. There's no difference. The only difference is you end up in prison when you do it that way. So yeah. I find it odd that people think it's easier to scam people than just to start a business.
And it's a big issue today. I don't like that either. My mother is in her 80s, and the constant emails and the phone calls. Oh, this is the IRS calling you. I had one of the seniors here locally that I was working with. They scammed her with the IRS. Oh, they got your social security number and blah, blah, blah. We need you to go to your bank, take out $2,000, go to GameStop or somewhere like that to put it on a card. And I'm like, why didn't you call? They stay on the phone with you. Oh, and they pretend like they're watching you. And I'm going, oh, the red flag should have been going up. And she's trying to slip a note to the lady at the bank saying, do you think this is a scam? And when you ask the question in the wrong way, you're not getting the answer. The lady was like, yes. And she was like, guess this seems like it's good. And that was not the question.
Oh, yeah.
So she lost $2,000. I mean, you don't do that to people. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fair. But if we're wise with our funds, We know what we have to spend. We know what we can do, and we would not do some of those things as well that the scam artists are doing. Oh, your friend is over in this particular city and they need you to send them or wire them money. Okay, guess what? I can pick up the phone, call them. What do you mean you're out of the country? I didn't know you were going. Oh, I'm not. Okay, well then I know it's a scam.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Those type of things. You don't, if you're not as free with your funds. Now, one of the things that I found with some of my customers that bought the workbook is, there's a friend of mine, we call it March Madness. It seems like in the month of March, everybody comes out of the woodwork wanting to borrow money. And their promise is that when the taxes come back in April, they're going to be able to pay you back, but they never do. And they come up with these wild stories, okay? I mean, I'm just being very real with you. They come up with, you know, out of the blue stories. So what she did was she bought 10 of my workbooks. And so when people ask her to borrow money, you have every right to say, what do you need it for? And yes, I want to help you, but now I'm going to help you to be able to be financially fit going forward so that you don't come back to me. And so it kind of puts a stopgap measure in place to say, I'm not going to be that one anymore. I helped you this time because it was in my budget, but outside of that, I'm done.
Right.
You know, because they can't say they never got the book and they never got the information.
Right. Well, something I do personally,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell people, if someone asks you for money, it's either, if you have it and you don't need it back, give it to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you need it back, simply say no, because 9.9 times out of 10, you're not getting it back.
You're not.
It's not. So if they were, how do I say, wise financially enough to give it back to you, they wouldn't be asking for it in the first place.
They could be in a critical position, but then what I say, with just like I was saying, that STEAM personality, the one that likes to lend, they would have a larger budget item for gift giving and things of that sort. But I tell them you have to balance logic with emotion.
Yeah.
So if I only have $100 a month to be able to give away and I'm down to 50 and you're asking for 75,
Right.
I can tell you all I can do is 50 at this time. You're going to have to check me next month because it's not within my budget. And so what I try to do is, in that biblical financial personalities, is help them see that I can remove the struggle from money management because I know how I operate with money. And if I work within that, then I am not going to be out of whack. I'm not going to be having sleepless nights because I gave to you. I also say this way, grown folks are going to do what grown folks want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, buying hair for $200 at a pop, or buying the latest Jordans that come out just because you got stimulus money. Well, right. Guess what? Use that more appropriately to, one, get your financial education so you know how to operate with money. Two, get your budget in line so you know what you have coming in and what you have going out. And I tell people to be automatic savers as well. You have to pay the government, yes. I say you return your tithe, but you also pay yourself. So you operate then on 80% of what comes in. You become an automatic millionaire without breaking a sweat. And it doesn't matter whether you have a job that's making $100,000 a year or one that's on minimum wage. If you start paying yourself first in all of those things, paying God first and paying yourself second, and then make sure that your bills are managed within that 80%, you're going to be good. The shiny objects are going to go away.
Yeah.
You know, look, here's another one that I like to tell my clients as well, is they'll say, if you look at it, 73% of Americans are dying in poverty. That's a significant portion. If 50% of Americans say that they're Christians, then mathematically, minimally 23% of Christians are dying in poverty. And that's not what we're supposed to be doing.
Right. No.
But you also look at the stats on savings account. Most Americans, I want to say in the 80%, 90% range, don't even have $1,000 in savings.
Right.
If an emergency comes up, what are you going to do? If you lose your job, what are you going to do? When you get ready to retire, how can you? So I tell them up front, one key thing that they can take away, is look around your house for things that you are not using, that you bought, because it was that shiny object, and sell it. You end up making $1,000, put it in the bank, start your emergency fund, and then start that fund, because I tell people to have 6 to 9 months worth of savings, gross savings. That way, you're not pandemic. Could you have made it in the 6 to 9 months? No problem.
Right.
Yes, you still cut back, but at the same time, you don't have sleepless nights because you're like, oh, what are we going to do? We've been doing this since March, So
one of the things I wanted to say, because I've heard many times you need to tithe, you need to pay yourself, you need to set aside for retirement, you need to set aside. One thing I've never heard anyone say, this is the first time I'm hearing it from you, is to set aside money for lending and have that budget and let people know this is what I have this month and this is all I can give you and nothing more. And that's not something I've ever heard anyone say. So I wanted to thank you for that, because I think people need to hear that yes, you may feel heartbroken that this person needs money, but you shouldn't make sure you're kicked out of your house because, of someone else, And so with that said, for those who feel like they can never, start, can you give us just 3 easy tips people can do to get their finances on the road to recovery?
First thing is going to be budget. You need to know how to budget. And it's a living document. A lot of people are afraid of the word budget because they think it's going to be tedious and hard. You don't have to do the spreadsheet. You can do the apps. They've got plenty of apps out there. I just say don't pay for an app. If you can, don't pay the extra. But it's really a system of saying what's coming in and what's going out. You have to know what you have. And then you have to know the systems that are out there that are working against you so that you can then rein it in and make better financial decisions. Cut out what you're not doing, reevaluate what you do have, because you need to get to a zero balance budget. In other words, you have allocated everything that's coming in to be in some bucket. I tell them very easily, give some, save some, spend some. So the giving is what you're returning your tithe, or if you're buying gifts, those type of things are in that bucket. Then you've got the savings bucket. That's for you immediately, emergency fund, as well as your income, so that you're feeling secure about that, but also for retirement. And then you have the part that you're spending, which is your everyday, your variable, you're going on vacation. You need to, do that, put that together. Secondly, have a goal in mind. Up front, know what you're planning for. If your goal is to get out of debt, then you're going to put most of your extra, anything over, into debt reduction. And there's an app that I always not an app, website that I'll send people to for debt reduction. Know the debt snowball method, the debt avalanche method. I explain all of that too, but this was a way for them to be able to type in what they do owe, and then it'll come up with an analysis telling them how much or how long it's going to take them to get out of debt. But in order to put that dollar amount in, you got to have a budget to know how much you can pay. Right. So those are 2 big things. Now, the third one that I would say would be starting that emergency fund, doing what I just said, going through your house, making sure that you sell the things that you don't need, just to be able to start with a fund and feel like you're starting from somewhere other than, oh, I can only save $2 this month. Another thing that I do on setting you up for that is I give you the 52-week challenge. Now, a lot of people will have the 52-week savings challenge out there. Very easy to do. It's 52 weeks in the year. Week 1, you're supposed to save $1. Week 2, you save $2, and so on down to 52. But you end up saving almost $1,400 in the year. Very easy, right? Well, I tell them, you know what? That sounds good, but guess what happens at the end of the year? What happens, Casey?
Try to use that money.
Well, they could, but what else occurs at the end of the year? Christmas. And what do? They start spending it, and they can't save it.
They don't realize they shouldn't.
They don't plan ahead for it, and so it makes it more difficult. Say week 50, it's like, oh, I'm supposed to save $50. I can't save $50 because I'm spending it. Yeah. So I tell them to reverse it. Start with $52 January 1, because you're all gung-ho. right?
Okay.
That's one way to do it. And then you end up only having to save $2, $3 at the end of the year. And because
Uh-huh.
of compounded interest, now you've made more money
Right.
throughout
In
that
the beginning
year.
of, yes, wow, never.
Now, also in my book, I do a bingo to make it fun for kids and fun for adults as well. So it's not just that straight number. You save your maximum and you start checking them off. So when you do that as early as possible, one, you're getting your math in, because if you got $40, but you checked off number 40 already, you can do 39 and 1, 35 and 5, those type of things. So all that math is still coming back in, but you're saving more at the top side of it than at the bottom. If you then end up have saved all of it throughout the year earlier on, you can start it a second time and you make it a game. So savings then becomes automatic and fun. And
Right.
that to me then puts us in a better light, because now we're not dependent upon somebody else to pay when we get ready to, when we pass away. They got to pay off bills or they got to bury us,
Right.
and they don't have the funds. Oh, well, I've already saved this money. I don't cover the insurance side of it, but I do cover the fact that I go through the rule of 72 when I do my online course. The rule of 72, talking about how long it's going to take you to double your money. In a bank account, you're not going to make that much.
Right.
But when you start doing the investments, then you see that you're getting higher interest. That's where you're going to then create wealth. And it's all about moving to creating wealth and leaving a legacy so that our children's children have something to start with and are not always starting from ground zero like most of us have.
Right. So you just mentioned investment. Is there information on investment in the book?
I try to stay away from the investment side of it, other than telling you the differences. I
Okay.
suggest that you do the 401k for sure, especially if you have a company
Well,
that is
no, don't say anything. If you have something in the book, they can just get the book and read it. I just wanted to make
yeah.
sure.
No, but I'm saying, now let me say this. I kind of stay away from giving you specifics on what to do other
Right.
than some of the generals, because I don't want to get in trouble with the SEC. I
Right.
am not, a financial advisor. I tell people I'm a financial coach and I'm a money management expert. However, I stay away from that because I don't sell you any products. And I think in some instances, it would be a conflict of interest because I would be trying to steer you to products that are going to benefit me. I want to be able to be that neutral person to say, this is what's best for you, or this is how you make the decision. Now, the next one that I want to move forward in is on the retirement side, when you're looking at Social Security and how you deal with your retirement. Because in that FIRE personality, which stands for financially independent retiring early,
Wow.
that person is going to make sure that they have all of their retirement plans. They know how much they need. That's a simple calculation. They know how much they need for retirement, but in that, they're planning to only spend the interest that they make, not the principal. That way you leave a legacy and you're really building wealth.
Okay. That's
That's coming
like
out of
that.
biblical financial personality. So that one will be in that.
That's good. So off the topic, give some advice or give your journey of publishing, because I know when you hear the word book, people immediately think you need a English degree and you need a doctorate and all this kind of stuff. But if you've been through something and you've learned your lesson and you don't want anyone else to go through it, that's a book. And
Mhm.
so, did you know anything about publishing when you started? Or how did your journey of publishing?
I did not know anything about publishing when I started. The first book that I did was Family Worship, Reaching All Who Attend, which is one that I did. It's on the back wall there too. I did through Ex Libris. I went through a company, and they typically are going to charge you anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 to publish a book. And most people think that the notoriety of, oh, I'm an author now, people are automatically going to buy your book. You don't have to do any marketing. If you did the work to write it up, it's done.
Mhm.
Okay. That's not the case.
Right.
I found out that book publishers in many instances don't know how to sell books. They're banking on you and your platform that you're selling the book for them. I did not also like the percentages in what we get. It reminded me of back in the day when we would have the singers, the artists, and you had the managers taking all the money and the companies, the studios taking all the money, and they would get very little royalty. And it was their intellectual property, if you would, just like ours, that's actually garnering them the money, the funds. That to me was not fair.
They still do that today.
Exactly. And that's what I found out. So when I started, and they keep calling me every day, hey, do you want to publish with us? And I'm like, what are the benefits? I have not figured out mathematically the benefit of going through a traditional publisher. You know, it is not, the numbers are not coming out. Whereas if I did my own self-publishing, I have my own editor, you know, I go to them, make sure, you know, spell check and all of that works wonders these days. We probably didn't have it in the past. But you can format it, you know, because I have the technology background too, it makes it easier for me. I can format, I can get it right. I've learned about going through Fiverr. I don't know if you've done that.
Yes.
As far as getting a book cover, you know, working with somebody. You have some pros and cons with that. Yes, you get what you pay for, but you'll figure out some of the ones you can. And then there's some other companies that are out there that will do an excellent job, if you would, at the same level, if not a higher level than what you would get through some of these self-publishing companies as well. So you get that together, but the marketing is still on you. I have found a local printer that I can get it printed from, or I can send it through Ingram Spark and still get, you know, the percentage discounts, or do that. I do it through Amazon as well. So I have it available, but the initial outlay is nowhere close to what you would be paying. I did my own copywriting in all of them. I bought my own ISBNs, and I bought a bank of ISBN numbers. And so you can do it yourself, and then most of what the publisher would get, that percentage you get. It's still kind of disheartening when you have to give a bookstore 40 to 55% discount in order for them to carry your book,
Right.
because that's cutting you in half. However, you recognize that they would have the brick and mortar. People would be able to come in and purchase it. They would be able to offer discounts on your book from that standpoint. So you understand why they want that discount, but you also have to realize that there is a system in pricing your books. You know, you price it so that you will be able to get a little bit more, that kind of thing. So it was a significant learning experience going through the self-publishing, but I recognize I'm more in control. I get more, even with Amazon, you're giving away, what, 35, 40%. You end up as an author getting about 18% through Ingram Spark. You get about 15% or so through Amazon. Now, when you look at the ebooks, which is another one that they came up with, it works pretty good because you don't have to have a physical piece of paper or anything, but in many instances, we discount it when the value is still there, you know, and so trying to figure that one out, because you're getting the same information, it's just coming through a different delivery system. So what you really should only be backing off ultimately is the printing cost. But if you look at it, I've done it too. My books are still like that as well. Like one is $11.99, the workbook is $11.99, but I believe on the ebook side it's $5.99. Well, was that the cost of the printing, or should I bring it up? So it's those type of things. But the author is really in control. The sad part is it's my intellectual property. Like you said, it's either my story, the information that I have garnered and been able to put together to help somebody else. It's my intellectual property, but everybody else is benefiting off of it. They're getting pieces of the pie before I get the piece of the pie. And ultimately, that's not fair.
Right.
So I'm still trying to figure that one out. Have you figured out a better way?
Not yet, but I find it, every author I've spoken to so far has the same story. on publishing, I find it funny because even when you said the publishing company doesn't market as much, early on when I first started publishing books, I said, I'm just going to hire a PR person and have them do everything for me. And so I contacted them, and their response was, give us a list of things you plan on doing to help market the book. And I was like, hire you? That's what that was my plan. I was going to hire you to do it. And they were actually expecting me to help them. And I'm like, so then why am I paying? The money I'm paying you, I could just do it myself. And so I think I don't understand why they have these professional PR and advertising marketers if I'm supposed to be doing it too. It's like paying someone to do your lawn and you go out there and do it with them. It's like, right. That doesn't make sense.
Well, you as the author are the hot commodity. If you're on digital stages, for instance, and you tell them as the PR person that you're on this, they sometimes like suggest some other ones that you would be able to get on. They might have connections with them, but that's basically what they're doing. You still have to, and that's the thing, is when I did the first one that I did with Ex Libris, I paid them the $2,000, do the book. I still did my own copyright, but they have the ISBN, so they control everything. I can always get it back, but at the same time, I'm like, nobody's buying it other than the ones that I sold. So what's going on with this? And then they sold me another package for $700 for marketing. I got no reports. I don't know where it went. I just know I gave them another $700. So that was my problem. I said, it doesn't make sense for me to pay for something that you cannot give me any stats on and tell me what happened and how it has improved. So I'm not going to go that route anymore. And I had to recognize that I had to do the marketing. I had to be willing to pick up the phone and call or put it on websites or do the social media. And, it's a hard road to get to that publicity. But once you get there, then everything else that you have done starts picking up. So we as authors, I think that somebody came out and I just printed it. I haven't looked at it, but it's a 21-day book marketing challenge. And it's got a list of items to do. Those things are good, but get in the habit of every week, like we're talking now. This is an excellent opportunity. And I applaud you for coming up with this, saying, hey, get on a Zoom with me and let's talk about your book. You can use it. You can interview me on my book and I can use it. I can put it on YouTube. I can put it on social media. I am now repackaging my information in a multitude of areas, taking me less time to actually get it done. So if I do at least one of those kind of partnerships or something every week, and then I do another reach out, and I've got my emails that are going out, because I got a website that I can constantly tell people about the new things that I've got coming on, then I'm marketing. Now, can it be done better? Yes, it can be done better. When you get to a point and you say, okay, my email marketing and those e-blasts and stuff, my copywriting is not the best, because author is typically not a copywriter either. Because, okay, hire somebody to do that if that's not your expertise. And you use it as a business. I've also heard that a book is really not a business for you. It's a business card.
Yes.
It's an entryway. So then now the thing is, you got to have an online course to go along with. Okay, yes, you can market and say, I'm taking this one thing that really is taking off, and how else can I repackage it? How can I format it? How can I tweak it so that now it meets all these other areas? So just like you said to me, yeah, high school, they're not doing it. I'm starting to reach out to home educators as well, because yes, I wrote it for college level, at the seminary, those type of things, but a high school student who is getting ready to graduate can benefit, and it's written at their level. Now, would I do middle school? Not for what I currently have, but I can repurpose it, rearrange it, change the terminology, give more examples for that level, and then go down to elementary. So eventually I can make it a full business. working all the way up. So that's why I have the online class now that goes with the financial wisdom for financial freedom. I call it Financialopoly. And most people can't even say it, but it sounds like Monopoly. But I did that because everybody is not an auditory processor. Everybody is not a visual learner. You know, everybody's not kinesthetic. You have to know how people learn.
Right.
So with an online class, I can bring not only the visual that they're getting in the book, but now they have the auditory, they can hear me. They print out the documents, they download it, they actually work on it. That's the kinesthetic. So if you then take the totality of a person, meeting every single aspect of how they learn best, now you move forward. So you can do the same thing with your books as well. Okay, I've got the book, now I've given you the information. Let me now take it to a class level. And the class level says, I'm going to give you some activities that you need to go through in order that you can then work through my book and get more out of it than just I read the book and I put it to the side.
Right. Well, you kind of just answered my last question I had for you. Do you offer, obviously it's going to be online now, but before the pandemic and after the pandemic, do you offer seminars, workshops, classes, etc.?
I do have an online class, but I also have what I call the Wisdom Wealth Workshop that I had planned to do in person. It's a 4-hour intensive workshop. It goes through everything in 4 hours, but on a group level. And then I had to switch it to virtual. So I have it still available virtual, but then I also personally do financial counseling for the individual. I either do it by the hour or I do it an intense, which is more like 6 hours to go through all of yours. I did that with one individual prior to us starting this big pandemic, like right at the beginning in March. And she claimed she was a mad happy customer when it was all over. But I got a chance to get to the mindset issue. You know, she wanted to do this because if you don't know your why, then it's going to be so easy for you to give up. And so we started there. She was the water personality, which stands for why attend to every report. She didn't know where anything was, nothing. It was just, you know, happenstance, no budget, no nothing. And we put it together and I had to let her know she was on a fixed income. She was like, oh, I'm always going to be in debt. That's another mindset shift that has to change. You don't have to always be in debt. Who told you that?
Right.
You know? And so when we got through that and I said, do you realize you're in the best position in the midst of a pandemic? The people who are better off are those that are on a fixed income. Their income's not changing. You can manage within that. And she was like, wow. And then when we put the budget together, we figured out how much she could spend. She had fun in it. She was giving, she was saving, all of that. But at the same time, I found she had overpaid the electricity company. They were sending her $700 back because she wasn't paying attention. You know, she was, oh, I'm just sending them certain dollar amount. She had a legal bill that was out there. We put it in her bank, you know, when they do bill pay. That way she had a record of when she was paying them. She knew when she was going to pay that off. She's paying off her condo because once that is paid off, that money is now going to be rolled over into the condo to pay off that mortgage a lot sooner. And so that snowball keeps working. Her student loans will be paid off. She'll be out of debt in 6 years. And she was like, wow, I can't believe this. But sometimes it takes me doing it personally with the individual. Some people can handle a group, ask their questions appropriately and get it done. Some people can work on their own, doing the online class and just working through it. So everybody is different. You have to know what's best for you to make sure that that does happen. But I do offer them and I love working with people. I love seeing their smiling faces when they're out. I put the testimonies on my website as well to let, you know, others know like this is available. Right now, what I really like to do, and I didn't tell you this, my goal for 2020 was to impact 2,020 lives in 2020. I had the best marketing plan laid out, you know, January 1, I had the whole year, how many Wisdom Wealth workshops I was doing. I was finding my ideal customers by going to certain events. And of course, you know, all of that went away. Yeah. And I said, well, I know I've got a great product, I know it's going to impact people. How can I do this now differently? So for the most part, I've been on these digital stages. I've been able to share the information. And I think when I checked, I need to redo my figures. But in July, I was up to 1,500, which is not bad, getting very close to my goal, and I'm like, wow, even in the midst of a pandemic. So if you don't have a goal, how they say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You have to have a goal in mind of what you're trying to achieve. So we have to continue to do that. And I bake that in as well. But yes, I have it available in hard copy if they want the books, in classes, they want the classes, whether it be in person or online, all of those are available. And I'm constantly making sure that they're experienced products, if you would, because a lot of people will start an online class but never finish. I want them to be able to go through. So I make it interesting. One of my students said, and he calls me a firecracker personality, because I get passionate about what I do. It shows through the work that I do, because my heart is that I care about each individual and their family. Because if I can teach you how to fish instead of giving you a fish sandwich, that's going to be better, not only for you, but everybody around you.
That is all the time we have for you today for this episode of Healthy and Wealthy Conversations. I want to thank our guest, Dr. Chonta T.A.Haynes, for stopping on by and sharing, and of course, you, the audience, for taking the time to watch. Thank you and have a great day.
God wants you to prosper, not somebody else, not someone down the street, but He wants you to prosper. He promises to be our exceeding great reward. God has a great plan for you. 3 John, verse 2, it says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers."
Well, hello. I wanted to send you a personal message to say thank you for ordering Divinely Connected Steps to Fearless Financial Freedom, the devotional planner I'm sure you're going to enjoy. And my prayer is that you will be in connection with God Himself and that He will speak through the words on the page to talk to you about your financial situation and other things as well. So that's the key that's within that He can talk to you about anything that's going on. I wanted to come on not only to personally thank you, but to give you some value. The last devotion that's in the book, I thought about even moving it to the front, but it's also a good place to end, and I think God did that for a reason. What I'd like to do today is I wanted to read to you that last devotional so that you will have something to go forward with this week. I want you to consider that. At the beginning of the book, I went ahead and put in the 7-day prayer challenge. It is a financial prayer challenge. It will have a song link in there. It will also have a meme in there. Put your email address in to start sending you those things. Now, it's going to be in your book, but I'm giving you a head start on it. How's that? Because I think that you're going to just really benefit from this. And I am so excited to have you come along with me. So let me read this last one for you, or this devotional for you today. The word comes from Habakkuk, chapter number 2, verses 2 through 3. And I'm just paraphrasing, cutting out little pieces here. It says, "The Lord answered me. Write down this vision clearly, inscribe it on tablets, so one may easily read it. For the vision is yet for the appointed time. It testifies about the end and will not lie. Though it delays, wait for it, since it will certainly come and not be late." Thank you, God, for vision. Clear vision. Has God spoken to you about your life, your family, and your finances? Has He ordered your steps in your business? Has He directed you regarding your gifts? God speaks, and we should listen.
The visions that God gives are not minor, easily attainable imaginations. Usually they seem enormous, greater than anything one can accomplish on their own. Often it involves areas that you don't have all knowledge and will need assistance in order to do. Ultimately, it's going to require divine intervention. That's how you know that it's from God. It's a God-given vision. It can't be accomplished by one human in a short time. So what is the vision? Write it down. The God we serve, when he gives a vision, he will also give the provision for what he orders. Thank him for his grace and faithfulness. See, God's grace covers the areas we are unsure of, and he gives favor in the areas that we need. Imagine the God of the entire universe that created all that we see, the oceans, the sky, the clouds, and rainbows. He still thought he needed one of you. You are valuable. You are a valuable piece in the equation. Go ahead and step into it. He built you for this. This week, write down the vision. Set your God-sized goals and watch God intervene to achieve them. If you don't know what to write, take a moment to ask God to speak to you. Write the vision as clearly as you can. Keep writing. Keep asking. Document it all. This is our starting point, and it will be a testimony when all is accomplished, or all is said and done. Get ready to watch God show out on your behalf. Now contemplate that for the rest of this week, and you'll hear more from me. As you start getting those prayers, go ahead and pray. Use those as your devotions as you move forward, and you'll be able to do them even the more as often as you like. Thank you again for considering me and giving me the privilege and the honor of speaking into your life and taking you on a journey with our Heavenly Father and fixing your finances. It's gonna be grand. Heart to Heart Truth Ministries. You can find us online at htruth.org. At Heart to Heart Truth Ministries, we're helping believers live an abundant life based on God's Word, standing on His promises, walking out His principles, sharing with God's people, serving as unto the Lord.